Jeremiah chapter 52. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did evil in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. Doubtless, because the wrath of the Lord was against Jerusalem and Judah, till he had cast them out from his presence. Therefore Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babel. But in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, the 10th day of the month, came Nebuchadnezzar King of Babel, he and all his host against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Now in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no more bread for the people of the land. Then the city was broke up, and all the men of war fled, and went out of the city by night, by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about, and they went by the way of the wilderness. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and took Zedekiah in the desert of Jericho. And all the host was scattered from him. Then they took the king, and carried him up unto the king of Babel, to Riblah, in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him. And the king of Babel slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. He slew also all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah. And the king of Babel bound him in chains, and carried him to Babel, and put him in prison till the day of his death. Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of the king of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babel, came Nebuzaradan, chief steward, which stood before the king of Babel in Jerusalem, and burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the great houses burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the chief steward brake down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. Then Nebuzaradan the chief steward carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and the residue of the people that remained in the city, and those that were fled and fallen to the king of Babel, with the rest of the multitude. But Nebuzaradan the chief steward left certain of the poor of the land to dress the vines and to till the land. Also the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans brake, and carried all the brass of them to Babel. The pots also, and the besoms, and the instruments of music, and the basins, and the incense dishes, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered took they away, and the bowls, and the ashpans, and the basins, and the pots, and the candlesticks, and the incense dishes, and the cups, and all that was of gold, and that was of silver, took the chief steward away, with the 2 pillars, 1 sea, and 12 brazen bowls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made in the house of the Lord. The brass of all these vessels was without weight. And concerning the pillars, the height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and a thread of 12 cubits did compass it, and the thickness thereof was 4 fingers, it was hollow. And a chapiter of brass was upon it, and the height of 1 chapiter was 5 cubits with network, and pomegranates upon the chapiters round about, all of brass, the 2nd pillar also, and the pomegranates were like unto these. And there were 96 pomegranates on a side, and all the pomegranates upon the network were 100 round about. And the chief steward took Serariah the priest, and Zephaniah the 2nd priest, and the 3 keepers of the door. He took also out of the city an eunuch, which had the oversight of the men of war, and 7 men that were in the king's presence, which were found in the city, and Sophar captain of the host, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land, that were found in the midst of the city. Nebuzaradan the chief steward took them, and brought them to the king of Babel, to Riblah. And the king of Babel smote them, and slew them in Riblah, in the land of Hamath. Thus Judah was carried away captive out of his own land. This is the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive in the 7th year, even 3,000 Jews and 23. In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. In the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuzaradan the chief steward carried away captive of the Jews 740, 5 persons. All the persons were 4,600. And in the 713th year of the captivity of Jehoiakim king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month, Evil-Merodach king of Babel, in the first year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiakim king of Judah, and brought him out of prison, and spake kindly unto him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babel, and changed his prison garments, and he did continually eat bread before him all the days of his life. His portion was a continual portion given him of the king of Babel, every day as certain, all the days of his life until he died. God bless and carry on.